go. So to go. How have you been, Ian?
Good, man. Good. Just been grinding away. That's pretty much all I've been doing, man, is kind of focusing on these four walls, my academy here, for the past X amount of years. I have my journey kind of, as you know, I started with Frank Cucci on the East Coast I worked for him for almost 10 years. And in 2012, I transitioned to come out here in Illinois, just outside of Chicago. And now I have my own spot out here with a business partner of mine, and just loving it, man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What originally inspired you to go in?
You cut out a little bit. So what originally inspired me for what now?
To go into Muay Thai.
I started training when I was 14. Growing up, I was in team sports. I played baseball, started playing about 4 years old. That was certainly a passion of my father's and my grandfather. I mean, they were big baseball players. And so I kind of followed suit and played baseball for about 9 years. In addition to that, I started wrestling when I was about 7. So, I was a middle of the road kid for the most part. I had certain attributes. I'm a lefty traditionally, so I throw the ball with my left hand. So out of those 9 years of baseball, I pitched for about 5 of them. I didn't throw the ball the hardest, but I had good ball control and could keep the ball down. But when I transitioned into high school, my parents were going through a divorce. In addition, like I said, being a middle of the road kid, I would say that, in the wrestling room, maybe 2/3 of the kids could beat me, right? So I didn't really see myself continuing into collegiate sports in high school, whether it be baseball or whether it be wrestling. So in addition with the turmoil at home, I decided that I didn't want to do that stuff. And basically my dad said, well, you're not going to do nothing, right? So he walked me into the doors of Lynx Academy when I was 14 years old. And the rest is kind of history. I mean, at first I was a little reluctant about it. Even I was going into 9th grade, or I was in 9th grade when I started training. And even some of the comments at school in terms of, the Karate Kid and the kid doing this and that. Yeah. But I would say this was spring of 2000. And in May every year, Ajarn Juice came. And I want to say I started maybe in March or April of 2000. And I want to say that he came in May sometime. And I didn't attend the Master Chai seminars, the traditional Saturday, Sunday seminar. Yep. But I did go watch for a little bit. I think it was like on a Saturday, and maybe I spent half an hour there just kind of checking out the seminar. And I'll never forget watching him smack my instructors. You know what I mean? Like the guys that I looked at and revered, obviously being as young as I was, I mean, he was smacking the bejesus out of them. And I was like, man, this is different, But maybe for the first 6 months or so, I was training about 2 or 3 days a week, and just casually, sometimes on a Friday night, I wouldn't want to go, but then I actually went and watched my first fight. So one of the instructors at the academy, Steve Rayner, was doing it wasn't even an MMA fight. This is how long ago it was. It was a Vale Tudo fight, literally labeled as Vale Tudo, right? I'm like, what do those words mean? You know what I mean? I had no idea what that was back then. And we were in Virginia Beach, and me and I want to say 1 or 2 of the other guys that were training at the academy around the same level that I was. We went up to Richmond, Virginia, and literally in a elementary school gymnasium / cafeteria, right? Because that's how the elementary schools are. Yep. There was a boxing ring put there, and I'll never forget it. Steve came out. I want to say he was a purple belt at the time. Frank Cucci being a Pedro Sauer Jiu-Jitsu, affiliate at the time. And I'll never forget it because he came out in his gi top and his purple belt, threw his gi top off, and literally did a Vale Tudo fight with gi pants on. I mean, that's how long ago it was. And it was awesome to watch, literally old school heel strikes and all. It was awesome. So I saw that, and that really piqued my interest. And then shortly after that, I actually watched Sean Yarborough fight. So Sean had been at the academy a little longer than I had, and I hadn't yet trained with him, but I knew who he was. And we went and watched him fight up in Richmond, Virginia as well. And that's when I was like, man, that's what I think I want to try to do. And so about a year in, or a little more than a year in 2002, I did my first fight at the WK Nationals in Richmond, and Sean was there and helped me train for that fight. And so I was getting the break speed off of me back then. And so that's really kind of how I started. And also around the same time, Frank Cucci always did this thing where he did an instructor course. So about once every year, every couple of years, he would ask and or recommend that someone take the instructor course. And it was a 9-week course at the time, about 3 hours every Saturday, where we would meet and go over everything from, how to communicate better, how to, live your life a little better, right? And of course, how to teach martial arts. And on Saturdays we would practice. And so I started at about 16 years old, teaching in the kids program with Frank Cucci, and very quickly transitioned into, teaching adults at 18 and then working full time for Frank. And I spent a lot of my 20s really teaching. I taught a lot of martial arts. I worked full time for Frank for probably almost 8 years. And taught 2 to 3 kids classes a day and probably 2 adult classes a day for almost 9 years. And as you know, I then extended my wings and went to Thai camp, and also had the luxury of training some guys that had some really good success, whether it be in MMA or even taking my first trip to Thailand in 2006 with Sean Yarborough. He fought on the USA team in the IFMAs, and amazing experience there. And so I just kept at it, did a little bit of fighting, and now I'm here in Illinois. So
it's quite a journey.
Yeah, it's been really fun, man. It's been awesome. I think my first Thai camp was probably 2003, I think.
Okay.
So I think I was 16 years old. Actually, it was right after my first fight. So, or maybe, yeah, it was 2003. So I was about 16 or 17 years old with the first time I went to Thai camp, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I started in 2004, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Sweet. How was it training with the legendary Frank Cucci?
It was awesome. Frank is, like you said, Frank is legendary. He's an awesome guy. Really, my relationship with Frank was unique, I would say. I've always had this passion of trying to become the best martial artist instructor and provide the best service that we can. And Frank is really unique because in our industry, as you understand, it's kind of a rarity that you get a guy who is not only well respected for his ability in the martial arts, right? And that's the thing, is Frank was revered under Ajahn Chai, with Edgar Salute, with Guru Dan, with Pedro Sauer, right? He's always been very capable himself. He's also always been very good at producing capable martial artists. But on top of that, he also ran a hell of a business. And that's one of the things that I think is a rarity in our industry, where you get someone who's respected and revered for their abilities, but they also run. I mean, I want to say we were probably $1 million academy at one point, right? Where we were doing $1 million in revenue a year. So it was, or close to it if we weren't all the way there. But,
okay.
It's that structure and that the professionalism that Lynx Academy had, I think, was always very revered. But so was Frank's abilities, and typically in our industry, I know plenty of guys, I'm sure that that are great martial artists, but they are starving artists, right? Is what they are. Is they have a really rough time trying to take that and monetize it in an appropriate way. And it's kind of funny because I'm not sure if you saw, I put a post out recently that very unique, that out of Thailand, the authority that kind of oversees the art and culture side of Muay Thai has announced that they're coming out with a Prajad ranking system, right?
That's fantastic. Yeah.
The community is very divided about it, right? Matt Lucas put it out on his post the other day. It was just a small clip of him. I assumed that he was in the room, and they were talking about it, how Muay Thai doesn't have any ranking or belts or achievements like other traditional martial arts do, and it's one of those things that the community was very divided about as I scroll through the comments, right? But yep. I see the value in it because Frank had that system in place when I was training back in 2000. You know what I'm saying? And there's a massive misclassification that the McDojo or the money making, is what it's about. When really it's about retaining students, giving them goals and something to look forward to in their training. Muay Thai, as we know, traditionally is just a sport. And those guys who came up in environments, I think, that didn't have those things in place, see that as something that they don't like, but I don't think they really see it from the perspective of the value that it adds, right? Like any martial arts, I think there's unethical commoditization of Muay Thai, just like there is in any martial art. And I don't think that you're going to escape that anywhere you go. But simply adding a ranking system to your program, really, as I said in my post, good Muay Thai is good Muay Thai and bad Muay Thai is bad Muay Thai. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, a ranking system doesn't change that,
Yeah. No, I see the value to it too, because on the student side, it gives them not only goals and achievements, but it gives them blocks of things to work on, right?
Yep.
So that way they understand, hey, I'm working on these things, now I'm progressing to these things, now I'm progressing to these things. And
Exactly.
it's a nice pathway.
But I think, that the other reason, and I'll go out there on a limb and say this, but I think the other reason a lot of people are so outspoken against it is because they actually don't have the capability to do it themselves, right? It's something that again, if you didn't grow up in an environment that had an academy that did something like that, how do you even know how to structure something like that? It looks foreign to you. So it looks, and everything as we are, especially as Americans, right? It looks foreign, it's bad, right? So I think that a lot of people have come out and said a lot of things against it, but they really don't understand that it's not the ranking system, right? It's the, are people going to take it and monetize it in unethical ways? Absolutely. Just like they already have in Muay Thai, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just something for them to yell about. But I think most people are just nervous about it because they don't really know how to do it in general,
Yeah.
which also is something that I've struggled with for many years. Frank's program was very, very good when we came up, but I'll tell you that it was very limited, right? And that's the other thing about creating a curriculum and a structure is that there is so much Muay Thai in the world to share, but how do you define or how do you stick to, certain things? Because we could really get off on a tangent on what or how or, all the different things that we could share about our art. So something that I was struggling with for many years is how do I create a curriculum and a ranking structure that actually builds a competent Thai boxer, not just someone that memorizes techniques and does them in a certain specific order, right? It's like, hey, do A, B, C, and now you're this rank, and then do A, B, C, and now you're this rank. So over the years, I've been trying to play with this, and I finally think I kind of have something that works very well and also builds someone to take Muay Thai and use it as it should in an interactive, unrehearsed way, right?
Okay. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I've had to do a similar thing in my gym, and I've created a full conditioning program. And same thing. I had just to kind of start from scratch because everybody had different ideas, right?
They do. Everybody does have different ideas. And the one thing I was fortunate is that Frank's structure was very good. I'm not saying it was bad. It was very good. And the other thing is that I didn't realize for many years is that it was built on such a counter-strike kind of, like Ajahn Chai is. Ajahn Chai has always been that, defend, return, right? The counter fighting is the best way to fight. And it really does help build timing better. It helps, build the understanding of when to attack better. One of my favorite quotes is from the book called On Boxing by Edwin Hazlitt, I think is how you say his last name. Okay. And it talks about defense is the keynote of offense, right? Learning defense allows a boxer to know, and I'm probably botching the quote, right? But defense allows or gives a boxer an appropriate understanding of when to attack, right? Which is why defense is the keynote to offense and should be taught first. And essentially, that's how I built my beginner, my fundamentals part of my program as well. While we're teaching offensive techniques, we're always learning the answer to whatever we're teaching. So,
yeah, well put, very well put.
Yeah.
So how does a fighter of your caliber, a coach of your caliber, how do you start your day? What is the curriculum that you lay out for yourself being a coach?
Coffee. Like I said, my life has taken a lot of changes. I now have 5 children that I'm responsible for, essentially. Me and my wife, so it's kind of funny. It's a mine, hers, our situation, right? In our household alone, she actually has 3 from a previous marriage, but in our household, we have a 19-year-old daughter. She has a 13-year-old boy. I have a 14-year-old daughter from my previous wife, and then we have identical twin girls together. So we have a lot going on. So my morning typically starts off with, daddy duties. But after that, depending on the day, me and my wife typically do a morning walk or workout together. We've been off of that regularly for about a week, but we typically kind of fall back into that. I typically start my day with a workout. Like I said, either an outdoor walk or some kind of lifting workout, depending on what the day is. And then I usually just take care of my morning routine and then come to the academy. At the academy, my responsibilities are far beyond just teaching now or just coaching. So I'll typically obviously do my admin work. I'm here during the day doing the business side of things while I have some of my guys teaching. I've been fortunate enough to employ, a bunch of guys who now teach for me. And some of those guys are just instructors, and then some of those guys are competitors as well. In fact, I think most of the guys that teach for me all compete currently. So as of right now, I just got done, training one of my guys. He's the Maximus Promotions champion. He's defending his belt on April 20th. So they were about a little over 2 weeks out from that. So we just went over some game planning in terms of, how we use this to fight. So that's probably the biggest thing for me is really, I like to keep things very technical, and I like to make sure that we're fighting with our brains. We got to have the brawn. We got to bring the brawn to the table. But, one of my favorite quotes from Greg Nelson is, being if you want to be a fighter, being tough is a prerequisite, but it shouldn't be your game plan. So that probably sums up my coaching style right there.
That's good. That's good, because there's not a lot out there.
Yeah. But my morning routine is pretty much that. Like I said, I'm pretty divided in terms of my time commitment, in terms of coaching people, and I would say business practice, right? So I'm at the stage of my life where I'm very heavily invested into my business day to day in terms of at least running the academy. I mean, as you know, here we teach, Thai boxing and jiu-jitsu, and I kind of run the day to day in terms of being the program director, in terms of being the head of the Thai boxing program. My partner, Jeff Kim, is a black belt, originally under Jeff Curran and under Pedro Sauer, but we are also a Gracie University certified training center. But I kind of run the operations here day to day. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So when you're getting a fighter ready, as you're just talking about, do you have particular workout curriculums you put them on for cross training and conditioning? And what is your best piece of advice on a day-to-day for a fighter who's preparing for a fight?
I don't necessarily have something in particular I put the guys through. So the funny part is while we run our regular classes here at the academy, as well as regular sparring sessions, I don't have currently a time slot dedicated to fighter training. A lot of my fighters literally just train in class, and then we have sparring sessions. And when they're going with each other, they can turn it up and we'll do certain things. But a lot of my competitors, as everybody knows, I try to say I have a triangle, right? Of I call it the 3 S's, right? Simple, safe, successful. So the idea is that we keep our game plans very simple, right? We're trying to stay very safe anytime that we're fighting. We don't like to take big risks, and we want to stay safe so that we can come back home and not be too banged up. And we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're having success with, right? So do you have a track record of what you're doing or what you've been trying to do in training or in other environments that you can take it and employ it in the fight, right? So as opposed to guys pulling stuff out of their butts, trying to do stuff and inherently becoming unsafe in doing so. Right. So that's the big thing. When it comes to conditioning, I express with everybody what I desire from them in terms of a running regimen and or a lifting regimen. Most of my guys who fight do work out outside the academy. I don't oversee that. Really, I can tell where they're at based on where they are on the pads, right? I can do 5 pad rounds with somebody and I can tell if they've been working out. So I typically work with my guys anywhere from about 3 or 4 weeks out from a fight. So they will do their own training. I will recommend, the sparring sessions and how many days a week they need to be in the gym. But about 3 or 4 weeks out, they start to get some more individualized sessions with me. So maybe about 20 or 30 minutes on the pads here or there, and we'll start to game plan. Sometimes I will game plan around fighters if we have some education on, what the other guy brings to the table. And if we don't have any education on that, then we just mind our P's and Q's and try to go back to our triangle of simple, safe, successful. I mean, we understand that. I like to game plan though, because, just like any film study, right? There's all these other sports in the world that all film study in preparation for competition, right? Whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's whatever, everybody sits down and watches tape. But it also takes, I would say, a certain level of education to understand, to look at that tape and extract the important information from it. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but Barry Robinson, who is A Million Styles Boxing, on Instagram.
Okay.
He's really shed a lot of light on, I call it between the lines, right? It's not the punches and kicks that are important. It's what's happening either before, between, or after those punches and kicks that really separates the great fighters, right? How are they controlling situations? How are they buying time in a fight and controlling the clock? And, I always say whoever controls the distance controls the fight. And beyond that, it's then controlling what happens in each distance, right? That's the next layer that we talk about. So first we talk about, depending on where I want the fight to be, how can I control that distance to get to where I want to be? And then beyond that is, once I'm there and I'm able to fight there, how do I control what's happening in that distance? So those are the things that we talk about a lot.
Yeah, and it's important. I often relate to my fighters. I say Muay Thai is a range sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you throw depends on the range that you're in.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. That's awesome. So on that side of it, who are your favorite fighters to emulate for yourself, and what coaches do you aspire to in your progress as a coach?
I don't necessarily say I would like to emulate any fighters, but I do certainly draw inspiration from their styles of fighting or the way that they do things. So like I kind of previously said, is that, coming up, I'll tell you that I, everybody can look at YouTube on this thing now, right? But, like we are on a computer, I want to say it was probably mid 2000s, right? When YouTube started to jump off and people started to be able to put, videos on and make highlights. There's one highlight of Buakaw that I used to watch religiously. And like every single day, right? When he was tearing through the K1 Max, his first K1 Max years, all the guys in that, him, Andy Sauer, because I'm comfortably 155-pound fighter, right, or 70 kilo. And that was the weight class, right, that I was gunning for. So believe it or not, though, as I wouldn't necessarily watch to, yes, I would be inspired by what they were doing, but I would try to train my brain to say, those are the guys I want to beat.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, when I think about fighting, I don't think about beating the next guy. I think about being the best guy in the world. Right. And that's what even with my guys, I go, look, are you training to beat this guy this weekend? Or are you training to be the best Thai boxer in the world that you can be at your ability? I go, so that's the goal. Right. I heard this quote recently that was amazing. It's like, don't try to prepare for, or I think it was, don't focus on winning championship belts, or I think it was championship rings in the quote, but focus on being able to put on a championship performance.
Absolutely.
And it was a really good, quote that I liked. But my favorites are probably like Giorgio Petrosian, right? He's one of my absolute favorites. His ability his distance control, his angling, his shot selection, the way that he sets things up, he's really one of the greats. Buakaw, obviously, I think Buakaw was just way more aggressive than he is, right? Buakaw brings a lot more attitude to fighting, I think, than Petrosian does. But I would say Petrosian was probably one of my favorites to watch. Buakaw was that, like I said, that whole K1, Andy Sauer. I went through a lot of Dutch influence as well. And really, for me, I would say my triangle of influence would be American style boxing, as Ajarn Juice was always very heavy on being favoring, American style boxing or Western style boxing. And then I would say the Dutch style of kickboxing and Muay Thai, and then obviously the Thai style. So those are kind of my three main influences on how I would say prepare, fight, and even teach here at my academy.
Okay.
In terms of coaches, I certainly have my, I would say the people that I've been exposed to, obviously, and you would know them, right? In our circle would be Pope Joy and Greg Nelson, right? So Brian, I absolutely love. I love his mentality, right? He's heavy on defense. He's heavy on game planning and drilling and creating scenarios and living out these these situations and how to deal with them. And then I love Greg, same thing. I mean, he's one of the OGs of the game, and these guys they're very, very good at breaking things down and preparing people. I love those guys. And obviously even, my coach, Frank, I mean, Frank was a great instructor. I would say that I probably gained a lot of influence from him on my teaching style, right? When it comes to my teaching style, I would say I've moved away from that now. Obviously I don't think I've been in Frank's presence for many years, but I think I left Virginia in 2012, so that was 12 years ago. I've been up here since 2012. So
awesome. Yeah. I often like to leave with one last question. That is, what is the most rewarding part about being a Muay Thai instructor?
Helping people. I mean, that's number one. Definitely, is helping people, especially as I got into the position of owning my own business and continuing. I used to, and I still do, really love training fighters. I do love doing it. I love watching the growth. I love watching the grind. I love watching guys get in there and mix it up. Obviously, it's the high of highs and the low of lows, as we know. But really, it's just helping people, man. Empowering people to realize that they are able to do more, right? One of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes is, you can have more because you can become more, right? And for me, that's what Muay Thai helped me do, right? It helped me become more and realize that I can have more out of life. So I think that's probably the most empowering thing. In fact, I have 2 kids that are supposed to be enrolling today with me, a 13-year-old and 15-year-old. And, I had a good talk with them and their father when they were in here, I think on Tuesday night, and that's what I told them. I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, hey man, and this is one of my favorite quotes. I even share with my kids. I go, look, those who do nothing achieve nothing. At the end of the day, if you don't want to achieve anything in life, then just don't do anything, but if you want to achieve something, you got to do something. And for me, I would say that Muay Thai and allowed me to understand that I was capable of more. Also helped me understand how to push through hardships, right? And how to also for achievement, right? Because, and this is where, going back to that ranking system, right, is understanding how to work towards something and then receive acknowledgement after the hard work, right? Which seems to be so backwards in the world nowadays. Right. But that's where the martial arts helped me a lot, right? Was saying, hey, if you want this is what you got to put in to get there. And I think that we've kind of outlined the same type of formula here at our academy, and it works, really well.
Awesome. I really appreciate the time with you. Where can people find you online or in person?
My Instagram handle is Polar Bear MT. Right, that was my fight name that was gifted to my pasty self many years ago by some of the guys. At Lynx, I used to kind of I had this little reputation of kind of mauling everybody, and they called me the Polar. It was either Polar Bear or Michelin Man, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'll stick with Polar Bear. So Polar Bear MT is my Instagram. Ian Alexander on Facebook, and then our academy, also Fusion Academy of martialarts.com. or Fusion Academy of Martial Arts on Instagram, or Fusion Thaiboxing on Instagram as well. So those are our accounts that for our academy, and then my personal account is the Polar Bear MT.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for all your time again today and your valuable
Absolutely, Aaron. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate reaching out. Like to see the format. And are you doing this pretty regularly?
Oh yeah. This is a regular podcast now. It's the Muay Thai Culture Podcast. We have a newsletter that goes along with it that helps people educate them on not just Muay Thai, but also the training for Muay Thai and the culture of Muay Thai.
Cool.
And it really echoes forward. We're trying to get to the people behind the sport, the people behind the art, so people can understand it's more than just people hitting people in faces.
That it is. Yeah. Even though we enjoy that. That's
Yeah. But yeah, it's ongoing, and we encourage everybody to subscribe. So
cool.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate it. Great to see you, and hopefully I'll see you again in person soon.
Absolutely.